Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear anything about housing for a while, but here we are. Yesterday, Blizzard just announced their first look at housing, and it's looking pretty damn good. Let's take a look at it. So the article starts off by saying how they're going to have these developmental pillars for housing in Warcraft, and basically it's just going to be a starting point for the development team to make decisions and identify priorities. They also go on to say that just because something may not be in one of the 3 pillars doesn't mean that it's not going to be a part of a feature down the road, or that it's not important. So the first pillar is boundless self-expression. It reads, our highest priority is to allow players to build a house that shows off their own personal tastes or their warbands, act as a desired backdrop for role-playing, or just allows players to create something in a flight of fancy. The toolset should be easy enough for someone with no 3D experience to be comfortable with and use successfully, but it should also be powerful enough that players can surprise us with their creations or drill down to get the tiniest details just right. The gamut of decor options spans not just the cultures of Azeroth, but the many expansions of World of Warcraft as well. So as with most housing in MMOs, you have 3D pieces that you can place anywhere in the room. But this seems to me that it's going to be at a deeper level and that maybe you can actually manipulate the 3D pieces that you get. So maybe you find something out in the world and maybe you can manipulate that to make it bigger, smaller, or what have you. So already looking pretty damn good. Their second pillar is deeply social. World of Warcraft is more fun with other players, and housing should be no different. While players can enjoy housing purely on their own, its systems are designed at a fundamental level to encourage interacting, playing, and progressing with friends, neighbors, guilds, or the wider community in a meaningful way. So it seems like they're very committed to making this a very social thing. Considering it's an MMO, I think it's a good idea. I remember back in Warlords of Draenor when I started playing, they had garrisons, and garrisons were basically these things where you would just start with a small outpost and then you could make them into bigger and grander things, but they were pretty limited in what you can do, and there wasn't really any decorating options. It was kind of just like, this is what you get because this is what they built. Moreover, with garrisons too, you were kind of just always by yourself. Yeah, you could bring friends into your own garrison to see how you created things, but there wasn't anything that was like very custom about it. You had a choice of what buildings you wanted to put where, but you couldn't actively like build something on your own. It was just pre-made things. You put them where you wanted them, and that was about it. So the fact that they're really thinking about the social aspect of this is going to be a very good thing, I think. So I'm looking forward to this. Their third pillar is long-lasting journey. Housing is being built as an evergreen addition to the game with its own roadmap, reaching across multiple patches and into future expansions. Goes on to say housing isn't something players should expect to finish, but instead continually look forward to the next housing release, be it new content or systems. This is a long-term commitment for us as developers and offers players rewards along the way. So it's really cool to see that we're going to be able to actually maybe get things throughout the world, through quests, through systems, whatever it is. So the concepts of these 3 pillars are quite good. So how is zoning going to work? So they've had a lot of discussions and speculations for the community on where players should be able to have houses, and they decided on 2 housing zones available at launch, one for the Alliance and one for the Horde, though more possible places to live will be considered in the future. So the Alliance zone takes inspiration from Elwyn Forest with touches of Westfall and Duskwood, whereas the Horde side is inspired by Durotar, its coastline, and Azshara. They have 2 main reasons for doing this. Their first reason was having many housing zones conflicts with the second pillar of design, a feature that is deeply social. In a world where players can live in many different zones, they become increasingly spread out, and even with aggressive sharding, the chance of seeing other players, much less interacting with them, drops quickly. So I think that's probably a very good thing to do, is to have everyone kind of just in a close-knit place, at least for the start anyways, and see kind of how things go. But it wouldn't feel much like a neighborhood if you had people just building randomly all around the world, so I totally get that. And their second reason, as they put it bluntly, zones are a lot of work. They much rather do a great job on a small number of zones than a passable job on larger ones, which I think is a very important thing to admit. I'd rather them make something that's a little bit more confined to begin with to get everything just right, rather than do something that's going to maybe piss off the player base because they didn't do something in a proper way, or they spread their resources too thin and made the whole experience just completely crash on arrival. That's the last thing that anybody wants with this, so I think that's a very good decision. Goes on to say that they chose these starting points because of how iconic they are for their respective factions and how much they feel like home to so many players already, which I agree with. So as far as decorating your house, there's a lot of discussions within the community and whether the housing will be pay to win or not, and they had a lot of conversations around real world money transactions. They say that they're very aligned in their internal conversations that housing is designed to be primarily player first and not revenue first, which is a really good thing to hear. That being said though, I'm sure there's going to be things in the store. They go on to say that there will be items offered in the shop, but it's going to be comparable to how transmogs and pets are currently handled in-game versus the shop. So all in all, not a bad thing. I get it. They got to make money. It's understandable. But knowing that they're going to offer hundreds and hundreds of decorations through in-game rewards and other activities is very positive. So really love this. And just as an aside, we can take a look at some of the concept art here, which looks really beautiful, and I'm really looking forward to this feature quite a lot. So perhaps one of the most important things that they mention is that they are going to ensure that housing is available to every single person who wants it. If you want a house, you can have a house. If you don't want to have a house, you don't have to have a house. And I think the key piece of text here, and I have to read this out, no exorbitant requirements or high purchase costs, no lotteries, and no onerous upkeep. And if your subscription lapses, don't worry, your house won't get repossessed. Now, if that's not direct shots at Final Fantasy XIV, I really don't know what is. If you don't know, in 14, you will lose your house after X amount of days for not logging in. So let's say you don't have money to resub and you have property in the game, you will lose that house if you don't actually enter it. So yikes, shots fired. Now, the other cool thing they go on to mention is that your houses are also shared amongst your warbands, so all your different characters can go into any house that you see fit. So your orc characters can hang out in your alliance houses and vice versa. So it's really cool to see that the housing will be account-wide and we can go into any house with any character that we desire. Furthermore, housing rewards are also going to be shared across your warband, so you'll be able to use any decor collected by any character. So that's really cool as well. It also looks like the factional lines will be broken here, as people no doubtably have friends in the Horde and Alliance no matter what you play, so you'll be able to visit your friends or your guildmates' houses in their neighborhoods with minimal restrictions regarding the faction, which is also really good. The only little roadblock here is that, for instance, your human character can't buy a house in a Horde zone, but you can have a Horde character buy a house and your Alliance character can go and visit that house. So the last thing the article does is teases neighborhoods. Basically, the way they're going to work is that they're going to be organized into 50 plot neighborhoods, so you can work and live next to whoever you want. But they go on to say that the neighborhoods are going to be instanced, but crucially also persistent, so your neighbors can be your neighbors for years to come, or until somebody moves. Neighborhoods will come in two ways. There's going to be public neighborhoods, which the game servers are responsible for creating as needed and maintaining, and then there's going to be private neighborhoods that are created by groups of friends or guilds to inhabit, progress, and customize together. So if you're a solo player, you can have a house, but if you have a guild or you have friends that you want to be with, you guys can actually create your own neighborhood, which is super cool. So that's the basic rundown of housing and a first look at it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to see more WoW content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Just as an aside, I am streaming on Twitch and YouTube these days, Monday through Thursday, so if you have some time, come on by. It'd be cool to see you in there. We do a bunch of keys and delves and leveling and such like that, and I love to get the community involved whenever I can, so you're more than welcome to join us and play with us. Until next time.